Hi, everyone. Welcome to Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. I'm your host, Marisa B. Today I have with me certified adult and youth mental health counselor, Reverend, theologian, High Priestess, founder of the New York City Wiccan Family Temple, international lecturer, founder of the annual WitchsFest USA, held in New York City each year since 2012, Trinidadian-Canadian transplant to the United States, who fell in love with the magical arts at a young age. I'd like to welcome Starr Ann RavenHawk. Hi, Starr. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
The first question I want to ask is because you say that you had fallen in love with the magical arts young. Can you explain how you came to this world?
Boy, I think curiosity kind of kills the cat, kind of a thing. You kind of go through that whole thing of where you're wondering if, I guess what you would say, what's the name? Bewitch was real, or if there's magic around and different things that we've seen as kids growing up. And as time went by in my teens, I kind of wanted to read about certain things. My mom is heavily Christian, so that was a no-no. She would throw my books away, or she would throw my things away without even question, because I'm under her roof. So I ended up not purchasing anymore at that time until I could leave the house on my own, because then it's wasting money, because then she will just throw things out, because again, heavily Christian to this day. So she's constantly trying to save my soul, kind of a thing, because of it. But once I left home, I got busy, I guess, at first trying to just live, pay the bills and everything else. So I kind of went more into it when I came to the US in my 20s, my early 20s. And I just kind of said, you know what? I am far away from mom, and I can just do everything that I want to do. I can still do all the other things of surviving and everything else. And I just went with looking at the books and stuff. We didn't have the internet back then. So it was all books or who you know and different things like that. And a lot of it was on 19th Street. I think it's East or West 19th Street was Magical Child.
Yes.
And he had a lot of he was really awesome, Herman Slater. And he had a lot of books and different things. And I would ask him questions and he would be helpful. And he was one of the most welcoming of people. Like, he just kind of said, if you have any questions or anything like that, just ask. I'm here. I will be whatever it is. And he was very helpful. So he kind of helped me begin, like, really studying and looking at things. I did not join any particular traditions or group. I'm not that person. I'm more of a solitary that wants to learn on her own, or kind of thing. And then when Enchantment opened up on 9th Street, because that's closer, because 19th Street is a bit of a trek. And so when Enchantment
that was Carol Bolzone.
Carol and Rhea. Carol and
Rhea Rivera. Yeah, they owned Enchantments, yes.
Yeah, and so I went to Enchantments a lot. And again, they were so welcoming and so nice to me and everything else. And that's where I picked up a lot of my info after that. Like, because then it's easier to get to there than to 19th Street. So I just kind of went with it. And then Laurie Cabot was teaching different classes there.
Yes.
So I decided to take her first and second degree classes. I did not want to move on from there with it, because it's not me.
It's one path, right? It's one path.
Right. I wanted to learn more, a bit more structure to what my studies were. So I studied and got the first and second degree with her. But doing the third degree meant I had to add my name, like Starr Cabot, whatever. And,
yes. I know a lot of people.
And I did not want to do that. So I said, okay, I think this is where my studies stop and stuff. And I went and I left that, and I just kind of went off on my own. It took a bit of time with that, like doing your own, because I think people think that when you do the second degree, they expect you to continue with different things, and that was not me. So yeah, and I wanted to. I think part of it too was if I was going to do anything, I want it to be done on my own terms and not on
Right.
someone else's terms where I'm being dictated to as to what
Mm-hmm.
should or shouldn't be done because
Right.
these are their traditions, rules.
Mm-hmm.
And I never was that person, so I kind of
Mm-hmm.
went off on doing my own thing, and
No, I
then
understand. I
from there.
understand completely because it is following just another organized structure, more or
Right.
less. Yes.
You know, and it all depends on what you want, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
structure is good for humans in
Right.
general. Without it, we kind of sway all over the place and
Mm-hmm.
become
Mm-hmm.
chaotic a bit. Um, but I think I've always been on my own terms. Everything has to
Mm-hmm.
be on my own terms. I'm a control freak. I know this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, so a lot of it was me wanting to have my own identity with
Mm-hmm.
everything and earn my own way with everything. And so that's essentially what I did.
Mm-hmm. And you're quite well known in the
Oh,
community for quite
yeah,
some time. Yeah, you've lectured all over the world. You've done workshops, you've spoken
yeah,
at universities.
yeah,
You've had shows on. You currently have a show going. You're involved with the WitchsFest USA. Can you explain a little bit about that? Because that's been going on for quite some time. It's an annual festival.
yes. This is its 13th year, actually. This year, the 2024 is its 13th year. And we when we formed the temple in 2007
Mm-hmm.
um, as a 501c3 and all of that, part
Mm-hmm.
of it is that when you're a 501c3, you have to do charities or different
Mm-hmm.
fundraisers and different
Yes.
things like that. So we were like thinking, you know, well, what can we do as a fundraiser and at the same time be part
Mm-hmm.
of what we are? Um, and so we thought of the Witches Fest because
Mm-hmm.
um, Pagan Pride was another structure that I didn't want to do or follow.
Yes.
So what I did
Wasn't
was,
that wasn't that well that didn't that start that started a long time ago too?
oh yeah,
Wasn't that with
Pagan Pride has been around
the
for a long.
radical oh yeah, the radical fairies and Eddie Basinski, I think he was part of that long time ago, or Leo Martello many years
Yeah,
ago. Yeah.
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 So oh right, so you remember Leo and all of that,
Oh,
right? That's
yes, I
awesome.
do. Yes, I do.
Yes.
Not to mention my age, but yeah. I was very young then, but yes, I know all those people. Long time
Yeah.
ago.
It's
Yeah.
been a while. It's been a while.
Yes.
So in terms of Witches Fest, I said I wanted to do something, but I wanted it to be different than everything
Mm-hmm.
else that we're seeing around. So I looked at the Children of Artemis with Witch Fest
Yes.
that they had in Europe, and
Mm-hmm.
I called them and I discussed it with them and I asked their permission if I could
Mm-hmm.
use the name. And they said yes, as long as you add a letter or something like that with
Mm-hmm.
it, so that way it differentiates from them
Right.
and does not go slide people to their website. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, oh, okay, which is why I added the S in the middle of
Yes.
which is fast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it became that name. And they were like, with me, they said they've never had anyone give them the respect enough to
Mm-hmm.
ask their permission.
Contact them. Yes. And
And
ask.
by
Right.
contacting them, and I said, well, you know, if I'm going to follow something that I like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to pretend I created it from scratch in that sense. I like the
Right.
module and the way that they had it. And I
Mm-hmm.
said they had structure, but at the same time, they were open to so many things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said I would love to do that, and they said they were honored, and they allowed me to do it, and they, you know, to have the name with the S and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I, you know, told them, you know, it's only respect.
Mm-hmm.
If you know, I expect that from people, but that's not what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and so we started Witches Fest in 2012,
Mm-hmm.
and um, we started taking it forward from there. And
That's a big undertaking, isn't it? That's a big
it
undertaking because
is,
that's an outdoor activity, right? That's an outdoor
it
activity in New
is,
York
it is.
City, of all
Yep.
places.
Yeah, we started out trying to do it in a park,
Mm-hmm.
but New York City is its own entity,
Mm-hmm.
money wise.
Mm-hmm.
And people think that, oh, if you meet in a park, it's free. It's not free.
No.
Nothing
Right.
is free.
Yes.
You have to pay for it. So
Mm-hmm.
in the park, it was almost going to be close to $10,000-$15,000 to put it on.
Right.
We were like, whoa, no, 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 we
Mm-hmm.
don't make that kind of money. So that's when we found out we could do it on the city streets, and it's
Mm-hmm.
less money because it's based on how many people are there or how many are participating in it,
Right.
as opposed to just in general.
Right. And it's a different
So
permit. I think it's a different permit
it's a
also,
different
correct?
permit
Yeah.
and a different everything, and it ended up being better for us.
Mm-hmm.
And all of it, of course, is based on the fact that we are 501c3.
Right.
So we ended
Right.
up getting Astor Place, which is
Which is a great space.
it's a great
It's a great
street
space.
because it even has its
Yeah.
own website. That's how well
Yes.
known Astor
Yeah.
Place is, and historically, and all the
Mm-hmm.
different things that's there. And it's a crux between East and West Village.
Right.
So it
Exactly.
has people living like that, that's from all over and right in the heartbeat of New
Mm-hmm.
York City. And um it we even have stars that live in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Zombie
Mm-hmm.
always comes to
Yes.
Witches Fest once a year with his wife. So it's
Mm-hmm.
always great and to see. But yet at first, the first 8 years of it,
Mm-hmm.
we had to fight that community board to
Really?
even, yes,
Wow.
it
You
was
would think that down there it wouldn't be because,
the
that
board. The
was.
board is the board is still structured of people
Mm-hmm.
who they live in the area is a very rich neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of the kind of money people that are there.
Mm-hmm.
So it brings with it, people who think a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would have to show up at these board meetings to
Mm-hmm.
get us to be approved.
Right.
And for the first 8 years, they disapproved of us entirely
Wow.
every year. But the one thing about it was the city allowed us to be
Mm-hmm.
able to appeal it. And then the city
Mm-hmm.
overruled their
Mm-hmm.
ruling and was able to let us do it for the first 8 years
Mm-hmm.
without an issue. But their ruling, they would ask me dumb. I'm not going to say, I was going to say a little bad word there.
Right.
But they would ask
Questions,
me
right?
some dumb
Questions that.
questions in the sense of like things like, so are you going to be burning witches on that day, or are you going to be doing things with babies on that
Oh
day?
my gosh.
And like things that it was offensive,
Yes.
honestly. And if I had thought about it, I would record it
Mm-hmm.
because they were being offensive. And
And it's so odd that because I mean Enchantments was down there. Angelica's root was down there. They were down
yeah, but
off
they're in the
that
East
area.
Village. East Village
Right. Well,
was a
closer to
lot
St.
different from the
Mark's.
West Village. Exactly.
Yeah.
East Village is very different
Right.
in it has rich people, but they're more bohemian type,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So East Village being different was more accepting than the West Village.
Right.
So, and there we are in the middle crux of both.
Right, right, exactly. Just where
You
before it
know,
crosses over.
so
Yes.
so they gave us a hard time the first 8 years. And
Mm.
then all of a sudden in the eighth year when I went, it was a slightly new board, and they
Mm-hmm.
were like, I don't understand why you are here. You should be approved every year. You've been having
Mm-hmm.
this for 8 years. I said, I know, but
Mm-hmm.
each year they will add something else that they think that I did not do or want,
Mm-hmm.
ask me for something that they didn't ask me the year before. And I would have to somehow be able to guess whatever that
Mm-hmm.
new thing is. And if I didn't have it, they disapproved. And the new people on the board just kind of said, this is silly. As
Right.
of from now on, you guys don't have to be approved. You don't have to come back like that. You're
Mm-hmm.
approved every year going forward. And we got
Oh,
in.
that's
And
wonderful.
that was it. And after that, we didn't have to fight
Mm-hmm.
them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it was difficult at first. I had to jump through so many hoops
Yeah.
to get them to be approved. It was ridiculous,
But it takes a
and
lot of organizing too. So you're still doing
yes,
that
yes,
while
yes.
while you're trying to get
While
approved and
fighting,
getting
yeah,
the permits from New York City. You're still
right,
having to organize everything.
yep,
It's a big
yep.
undertaking
It
because I
is, and
understand a
and
lot
and
of
we make
people
it
come.
right. And I think people think that it must be easy because we make it look like it's
Mm-hmm.
easy,
Yeah.
not knowing
But
that
it isn't, right.
it's not, and it's a lot of work and effort and fighting people and
Mm-hmm.
trying to come up with the ways to make them approve us
Mm-hmm.
through the city. And the city helped us a lot. So sorry, I have to get my cord for my laptop because I just realized that the laptop is.
Go ahead.
I don't know
That's fine. Don't worry. That's life.
I know. I feel badly because you don't edit.
No, that's no problem.
I looked at it and I'm like, oh, my laptop.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll actually see if my sister can get that part out. I'll have her take that part, I'll have her cut that one part.
Okay,
out.
all right. So
yeah, that'll be
awesome.
fine. So now let me ask you, because it is a big undertaking. When do you do it each year? Is it generally the same time each year?
Yes, the second Saturday in July. We try to do it
in July.
Yeah. So like, and for some reason the beginning of July Saturdays have been like the first or the second. Right. So then we end up with it just being right after that.
Right. So, right after like the 4th of July or around the 4th of July.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. So that's where we stand right now with it.
And so it's only one day. It's only one day.
Well, it's been only one day. And not last year, in 2020, when was the pandemic begin?
2019? 2020.
We were trying to do 2 days, and it would have cost us a lot to do it, but we, money-wise, but then the pandemic happened and we decided, and we couldn't do it.
Right, couldn't do it, right.
Right, and then when we came back the following year online. And doing it online and still doing the one in person. In 2022, we came back, I believe it was, because we weren't allowed to come back in person at first, even though it's outdoors and it's streets and everything like that.
Right.
Understandably, So we ended up coming back out then. And when we did come out, we had to have everybody sign off that they're going to follow the rules of mask on and all the different things, because before the pandemic, the event got to the point where this is a street event,
right?
Every vendor that's there had to literally stand outside of their own tent. They couldn't stand inside because it was so packed,
so crowded. Yes, it is a big event.
So crowded that they could not even be in their own tent, other than somebody's walking out and going, here you go, here's the money, and walking away.
Right, because it's too crowded.
Yeah. And then some of the vendors would be like, by 2:00 or whatever, they had no more merchandise and things like that. Yeah, it got to be that crowded. Since coming back, it's not as crowded as yet, but we hope
not yet, but it'll get there, I'm sure. It'll get back there.
Yes.
And now your temple sponsors it. Because you actually have a temple.
The temple has always been sponsoring it from the very beginning, because we're doing it under that heading as a fundraiser for the 501c3 religious organization. So we've been doing it as that, and we haven't gotten to the point yet where we make this giant profit from it, because we also, as well as the fundraising, we give to 3 charities every year.
Yes.
As well, and divide up that part to it. Aside from our expenses, we divide up that part to that. So now we want to get to the point where we can still give the 3 charities, still cover our expenses, and then finally go, oh wow, we've got this profit. That would be so wonderful, But in the meantime, we're still having fun with it, and we're still enjoying the efforts and everything. We wish that we could get more volunteers to help us with it and things like that, because it does take up a lot of time and work. Yes.
Yeah, and it's difficult. Well, just like everything else, it's difficult to get many volunteers.
Yes, because it does take a lot out of you. It's a lot of work, and I'm that taskmaster that I want everything to be done a certain way or whatever it is, because it keeps everything running more smoother.
Right.
And they're not knowing that certain rules the city has me set up with.
Yes.
And I have to follow those rules. So I have to relay that to everybody else and things like that as we go along, and I would say no or yes based on what I know that the city wants from us. And that way we could be always approved no matter what every year by the city.
Right.
So the city has been behind us, and I like that. They're very neutral.
Which is nice. Which is nice.
Which was nice. and we've had Christians bothering us and harassing us a few times, to the point where um, not last year, the year before that was the worst. Was the worst. They were almost physical with us. This is how aggressive
Really?
they've gotten. Yes, they have gotten extremely aggressive and confronting us in the street and saying, "Well, this is public areas." And they were horrendous with a blowhorn and the whole. It was
Wow.
horrible. Yeah, yeah. So we had to try to control that, and
Well, it's
then
surprising that
yeah, and then I
still
got, but
happens.
most of them were not from New York. That was the part that got
Well,
me. They traveled from other places,
mm-hmm.
Georgia and all those places, and came to New York to harass us.
Oh, wow.
And we don't
Wow.
go to them to harass them with anything.
No, of
And
course
they
not.
did
Right.
that. And I just got really upset. And I literally, that whole year after that, I messaged and emailed
Mm-hmm.
the mayor, the DA's office,
Mm-hmm.
the senators, everybody. I was emailing and I was saying, if anything
Right.
happens going forward, I have notified all of you. With
Right.
all the I literally said, with all the mass shootings going on and
Mm-hmm.
everything else, if there's anything, I said, because they got that aggressive that we
Wow.
feel threatened. And I said, if anything happens,
Mm-hmm.
the news would know that I did contact you guys, warning you guys and
Right.
telling you guys that these people are aggressive
Mm-hmm.
physically and everything else, and disruptive when we have the right to be there. We
Right.
pay for the whole street.
It's quite
When we rent
frightening.
it,
It's quite
when we
frightening.
rent it is, and we rent it from them, like other
Mm-hmm.
events. The LGBTQ community
Yes.
has an event that they put on a block festival just like ours. No
Mm-hmm.
one bothers them,
Mm-hmm.
but there they are bothering us and
Yes.
coming at us aggressively. And I was just and I brought up Supreme Court cases
Mm-hmm.
showing where other pagans have done things, the Ifa tradition or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Supreme Court ruling that no one else has the rights to violate someone else's civil rights
Right.
based on their
Exactly.
religion. And that's what the Christians were doing with us,
Mm-hmm.
violating our civil rights based off of their religion. They don't have the right to be the boss of us,
Right.
kind of a thing.
Right. Well, it's
So
the same old story, right? Under the guise of religion,
right,
people spew
right,
hatred.
right, exactly. So it was not good. It was
Yeah.
it was so I blasted it everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
what happened last year? The cops showed up in
Yes.
droves, and they parked there all day
Mm-hmm.
and watched us and watched everything. And
Mm-hmm.
not once were the Christians there. I think
Mm-hmm.
they were there because they came every year and harassed us. I think they were there. They were just surprised that the cops were there all day long.
And then didn't really
And the
speak
cops
up.
said they were not right. They said they were not moving, that they were
Mm-hmm.
going to be there all day to protect us. And they were on
Mm-hmm.
both sides of the street. And they stayed there. They
Mm-hmm.
stationed themselves there all day and watched the event. So we had a well ran, uninterrupted
Mm-hmm.
event
Oh,
without
nice.
any problems from them all day long. It was wonderful.
Oh, nice. And now tell me, so the temple, if someone, do you have a physical structure for your temple? And it's called
No,
again Wiccan Family Temple, right? And
right.
you do meet different locations, correct?
Yeah, we meet in the park, usually
Mm-hmm.
Tompkins Square Park, but
Mm-hmm.
mostly since the pandemic, we've been mostly online on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like what's his name for Beltane,
Mm-hmm.
we want to book for outdoors. We have to book the park and pay for it for then.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Solstice on the 21st
Yes.
of June, and then we have our event in July.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, everything else is back online again
Right.
for the year. So we
Mm-hmm.
kind of doing both online and offline and in-person events.
Right.
Um, and that's where we are with it right now. I wish we had a physical building because
Right.
that's the intent, that to have
Yes.
one day this physical building.
Mm-hmm.
But to have a physical building in New York is
Yeah.
extremely difficult. It is
Yes.
expensive. Um, so
Yes,
I
I'm sure.
highly, but
Mhm.
we're gonna keep trying. But in the
Yes.
meantime, we're trying to buy some land,
Hmm.
about the most 2 hours out from the city,
Mm-hmm.
and about 200 or so acres, and one part, half of it will be for living, and the other
Mm-hmm.
half would be for the temple to be able to
Right.
have hopefully a structure
Right.
that we
Now you
can.
do an event. You do an event in New York State. You do some sort of camping festival, correct? You also
Well,
have that going on.
this year for the first time, we added on witch stock,
Mm-hmm.
and we are trying to take witch stock and make it into a camp.
Mm-hmm.
And for this year, we're paying for it at a camp in the Catskills,
Mm-hmm.
uh, a private camp, because we didn't want to have any more Christian harassment
Right.
with the regular public parks.
Mm-hmm.
So we are paying the private campground. So it's a bit more
Mm-hmm.
expensive, but it's worth
Right.
it to make it more private where we don't get harassed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so for this is the first year that we're trying to do the camp. So because people have said they come in from all around the world
Mm-hmm.
to our event, and they've said many times, we love coming to the event, but we wish it was longer, and that way
Yes.
it makes it more worth it, taking a flight from Japan or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because we've had people from all those places. And so we thought of putting the camp in. So we're trying to
Mm-hmm.
make a go of it this year for the first time with the camp, and utilize that private campground,
Mm-hmm.
even if it doesn't, because it's having a hard time taking off, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay, for the first year. um and what we thought of, by the following year, by
Mm-hmm.
then we should have our land. We would be able to do
Mm-hmm.
our own camping
Right.
and keep the price down, and be
Yes.
able to have an event that we
Mm-hmm.
could control, and we can
Right.
take, because it will be our land.
Right.
So hopefully, that if things are going to go the way we're hoping, next year we
Mm-hmm.
should be able to do that.
Now let me ask you, I know you founded a school as well, correct?
Yes, yes,
You're
the
right, you're the
academy,
creatrix of a school. And
yeah,
what's the name of the school?
WFT, Academy of Pagan Studies.
Mm-hmm. And is
And
that online?
yes, well, it was in person at first. Again, everything was in person.
Right.
We were at Lafayette, which is around the
Mm-hmm.
corner from the festival grounds of Astor
Right.
Place. Which is another reason why we were like, this is where we want to be, because, well, first of all, it's an amazing block to have,
Mm-hmm.
with WitchsFest, which we found out New York City is no longer allowing any more new events, no more
Okay.
new
Yeah.
festival and stuffs in their on their streets
Right.
anywhere,
Only existing festivals.
only existing
Right.
festivals.
Right.
And so we got grandfathered in.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to ever lose that. So that
That's
street
right.
is always going to be part of WitchsFest,
Right.
because to get it, we had to fight for.
Mm-hmm.
To hold on to it, we had to
Yes.
fight for. And now we've been grandfathered in.
Mm-hmm.
It's an honor. We're not leaving.
Right.
We're
Oh
holding
yeah,
on to
no,
it.
I don't blame you.
Yes,
I don't blame you at
yes.
all.
So we're pretty much going to do that, and hopefully take it would be nice to have a camp take off where we can have literally about
Mm-hmm.
8 to 9 days of where that's the idea of it.
Mm-hmm.
Start off at WitchsFest and in Astor Place, and then rent a bus where we take everybody to
Right.
the campgrounds, and we're there for the rest of the week, and we
Mm-hmm.
could do well at this private campground. We can't do vending. We can only
Right.
do we can only do the camping and like
Right.
music and things like that. Which is
Right.
why
Right.
when we buy the land next year, we
Yeah.
can then have vending,
Mm-hmm.
camping all week long, or
Right.
all the
Right.
entire
Well, when it's
week.
private, yes. When it's
Yes,
private, because it's not
exactly.
considered a mass gathering. Then it's not
Right,
considered a mass
right.
gathering because it's your own private land. That's why I know vendors at the other location because they're in
Well,
fear.
it's their
Their
campgrounds, and it's their
campground, yes.
rules.
Yeah.
So being that it's their rules,
Mm-hmm.
they will not let a vendors
Right.
there.
Right.
But when we have our own land, we
Mm-hmm.
would be able to then be able to
Mm-hmm.
have vendors and do a whole lot more
Mm-hmm.
with it. Um, so we're hoping forward that, and um, and then just having to take the names of everything, because we began to get calls from people and
Mm-hmm.
emails saying, there's a witch fest going on and so, are you running that too? Because I want to make sure it's you. I said, no,
Mm-hmm.
that's not us.
Right.
I said, a witch fest. And then I started looking it up, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of witch fest now, witch fest north, witch fest east. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, Did any of
Wow.
them give me the respect of calling me and asking
Yeah.
me if it's okay?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, I
I
was
did.
surprised that they even have
I
them.
called up England to
Right,
ask them
exactly.
out of respect to give
Hmm.
permission. Not one of them, but yet they're riding the coattails of it,
Yes.
which is really not fair. Because if you're going to ride the coattails, at
Right.
least contact the person and
Right.
ask.
Ask them. Yeah. I didn't even know that they were having other ones.
Yes, they are, and I was so surprised. And I thought, why would you even, one of them
Right.
even had done it and then invited me to be part of their event, and I was just
Oh,
like,
wow.
why would you have this event called this? They're like, well, it's not in the city, it's somewhere else. I said, that's still not the point.
Right.
You
Right.
didn't
Exactly.
even
The
ask
name.
me. You didn't ask me. You're
Hmm.
riding on the coattails of that name.
Hmm.
That is
Yeah,
not what
exactly.
you do.
No, no, of course not. Because
You know,
you don't want to have anything affiliated with you that may not
and if
run the same
anything,
way.
right, but not only that, even if they did, they didn't ask my permission.
Right.
And if anything happens to it, the same way
Yeah.
the name would be associated
Yes.
negatively or otherwise, and it's not right.
Hmm. No, no, not
Somehow
exactly.
they all have the gall to do it without
Mhm.
even a question.
Right.
So yeah.
That's really not good. And now let me ask you, because this brings us to the show that you're doing. Explain a little bit, what's the name of the show and why you decided to do it on a weekly basis?
Okay. Magical Witchy World TV channel. And what we the idea was is that in general, the mundanes or everybody else who are not us,
Hmm.
um, has misconceptions and already have things that, like they're judging a group of people based on what they
Hmm.
stereotypically think it is.
Hmm.
And so I said, we were discussing it, and I said to my friend, I think we should do a show that's based on showing and demystifying
Hmm.
what pagans are in general,
Hmm.
that they are of different backgrounds, different do different jobs that are
Hmm.
regular. They and they're also, even among them, they all have different traditions. No two
Hmm.
are alike. They're all so different, but yet they're under the heading of that. And
Right.
so we wanted to show them that we're regular, because with words being thrown around like witch hunt and all the different
Hmm.
things, we said it's time that we come out and
Hmm.
put this out there. So we would have people from every walk of life
Hmm.
uh, uh, explaining and being interviewed on our show. And it's being done weekly because we said, I know people think that we can do it more often than once a week, but we can only do it once a week. It's a lot
Right.
of work.
A lot of
It's a
work
lot of
behind the
work.
scenes. Yes.
Right, right. So what we did say was we will have our show of where we would bring out people from all walks of life,
Hmm.
from internationally, so they can explain their side of the world and what things are
Hmm.
and who they are, because they're all different, and what they call themselves, because not
Hmm.
everybody is a witch, not everybody
Well,
is a Wiccan, not
right.
everybody is whatever names that you want to
Right.
give it. And we let people
Right.
choose to call themselves
Right.
whatever name they want to call
Hmm.
themselves, because it's kind of like, a slight bit of education. People would say to me, but you're Wiccan, right? I said, no, I'm a witch. Yeah,
Right.
but because they, again, when we knew initially, the
Hmm.
word Wicca just meant witch, but
Right.
people have taken it and ran with it in so many different definitions
Right.
they've given it, that we're sitting there going, but that's not what the etymology of the word is.
Mm.
So when we say Wiccan family temple, Wiccan
Hmm.
just means more than one male witch. And
Right.
then there's Wiccan with a en, not an an.
Right.
That's more than one female witch. We just
Hmm.
went with the word Wiccan because, in general,
Right.
most people know that word. But all it means is witch's family temple. That's all it is.
Right. Right. Well, I think it's the right labels that people put on. I mean, the term pagan. In fact, do you know Zell? He
Yes.
recently, I was listening to him speak, and many, many years ago, I guess when his Church of All Worlds came into being, I think that they were termed pagan, or he had made a comment about the term pagan, or maybe he was asked and he responded that yes. And so I think that that gave it a bad connotation, because once someone's labeled you as something, that's a problem. So like you said, you're bringing in people to your show that have their own terminology for who and what they are.
Right,
If
right.
they
And
even
we
label
have to
themselves.
respect that. Yes. Rather than us labeling who they
Mhm.
are, we allow them to tell us who they are.
Mhm.
And so
Right.
part of the questioning that we ask people at the first is, you know, we know that you take an arc of where you began and where you end
Mhm.
up, because we all start off saying that we're a particular name or Wiccan or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and then where you are now, because you've
Mhm.
grown and you've realized, okay, names have a meaning, titles have a meaning, and this is who I am now.
Mhm.
So that's one of the first questions that we ask people. So let them tell us who they are and what they
Mhm.
call themselves. So
Right.
we are not defining them. They're allowed to define themselves.
Mhm.
And that's what the show is all about. And so we like, next on Friday, the 12th, the guest is Jasmine Lafleur, and she founded Black Fae Day. Her whole
Mhm.
thing is all about Fae and putting the
Mhm.
Faes into movies and all these different places.
Right.
And I can't wait to interview her on Friday, so she can tell us who she is and
Mhm.
what she's all about. Yeah.
So now tell
So
me, how can someone first of all, see your show, or find out about the temple or about the festival? Because actually, this show will be out just shortly before the festival goes on. So there will be, prior to this, of course, promos explaining, out there, at least from my end with my show, there'll be explanations about the event in New York City way before the
right.
July weekend. So how can people get in touch with you? What's the easiest way?
Okay, they can try me at check out the website wiccanfamilytemple.org.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's for anything to do with the temple
Mhm.
and all of that. It also has a link, if I remember correctly, that goes straight to WitchsFest, or you can
Mhm.
go straight to WitchsFest, which is WITCHS,
Yes,
as and
right.
then F as in Frank, and then which is
Mhm.
WitchsFestUSA.org.
Right.
So there's an S in between, like I had
Right.
said,
Yes. Yes.
with it, that makes it WitchsFest, because people change the name so much. They would put it
Right.
as WITCHES. They would
Mhm.
say everything, or Witch Fest without the
Right.
S.
Right.
And I would
Yes.
say that's not us. None of that is us. This is what we
Right.
are.
Well,
And
all that information I'm going to put in the description. So
right,
it will all
right,
be there for people to see.
right,
I want to make sure that, like, for example, if somebody wants to volunteer, they know exactly how to reach you.
right.
I will
Yeah,
put it in there, but it's good that we're talking about it, because I'm sure
right.
anybody who wants to volunteer would have to be in touch with you relatively
Yeah,
soon, since
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. The
festival's in
website.
July.
Yes, the volunteer pages are on the website and everything, and we will be reaching out to everyone. I know we had a few people trying to volunteer, so I have to
Mhm.
contact them and let them know that we would
Mhm.
love to have their help and everything,
Mhm.
and what they can do. Yeah,
And the
so
same for
pretty
the
much it.
camping, the same for the witch stock camping.
Yes, all
That's
of that
still
is
on,
there on
that's
the
online
website.
also. Right.
Yes, same on the same page, the same
Mhm.
Witches Fest USA. There's a link
Mhm.
from on that website
Okay.
directly to Witches Stock page.
Oh, that's
Yes,
perfect. And then
yeah,
you have the show that's weekly on a Friday. It's live streamed. How
yes.
can,
It goes live every Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern
Mhm.
Standard Time.
Right. On
And
different
it's on,
platforms, right? Different
yeah,
platforms. So I can actually list
it's
that.
on, right. It's on Facebook, Instagram,
Yeah.
YouTube. Um,
Mhm. So
uh,
do you also, for the temple and so forth, like I can put that, you also have a Facebook page, Instagram, you're on social media for all of that as
yes,
well.
yes. So I'm on Facebook. I'm under Reverend Starr RavenHawk
Right.
or
Yeah.
Starr Ann RavenHawk,
Right.
because Facebook made me add the middle name Ann. I did not like that, but I had to, because
Right.
they wanted to know, because I think it was during that time when they were
Mhm.
making people put their real names and
Yes,
things like
right.
that
To
out
have a
and forcing
real
people.
person.
Right, right. And I had to show them proof that
Okay.
I go by both names
Yes.
legally, and so
Hmm.
that's when they allowed me, and I'm like,
Hmm.
goodness,
Yes.
yes, yeah.
Right, because they
So,
wanted a real person. They didn't want fictitious names. So, or
but
they
the thing
thought
about
what
it
they
is,
call,
a
but yours
lot of
was a real name. Yours is real,
Right.
but they, yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. Yeah. So I will definitely list all of that in the description, especially the social media platforms, because there are a lot of people who want to see what's going on and they want to get involved. And I'm assuming that even the school is online. The online school can be found through the temple.
It could be found at WFT Academy of Pagan Studies.org.
Right. So you have that on there as well.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today, Starr.
Absolutely.
It was such a pleasure to speak to you.
So much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. It was a thrill. It was a thrill hearing everything that you're doing. I know you're always so busy. So this was great to get some time to chat.
I know.
Well, hopefully I'll be down this year to the festival. I'd like to get down there.
That would be so nice. And we're happy to have you on the 26th of April on Magickal Witchy World TV.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. That'll be wonderful.
That reminds me, another part of Magickal Witchy World TV, we've started adding, because again, it's a large undertaking doing that channel. So we decided it is a channel. So we are making it where we have other people come on and do different topics that they do for 15 to 20 minutes. And that they have their own show. They run everything and we run it from our streamer. So it's
wonderful.
It's so that way it's geared and it's set up. So in other words, we have one that's paranormal, one that's a little hint of magic, another one that teaches about different types of herbs and what you can do with it magically. So, we have different types of things. And we have another one that's coming in she teaches herbs, but she talks about the baneful herbs and things like that.
Lovely.
And she plants them and she works with them. So it's interesting. We want to have different shows so that it shows a variety of different things. Yeah.
That'll be wonderful. I'll actually put that out in some of the groups that I have. I'll put it out there because you never know if somebody's interested in coming on, since you do have, you actually have almost like a network for people, complete network with different channels.
Right. So that people can start, and they all beginning to have a following, which is great, because they're getting out there with their own show and they're still getting all these things being done because we all utilizing our forces together. Or resources together to make it become a bigger platform.
Now do they contact your email, or what's the easiest way to get to that for the show itself if somebody's interested in doing that?
They can contact me on Starr Ann RavenHawk on Facebook,
right?
Or they can reach out to me at Charmed by Starr with 2 R's at Hotmail.
That's you've had that for a long time.
I know that's been around like 20 something years now, right?
Yes, indeed.
Since emails began. Since we were allowed to start beginning emails, I've had that email. So I haven't changed, and I had to adapt other things in the meantime. But that one's my mainstay because everybody knows that one. It's the one I'm always on the most. Yeah.
Yes. Well, again, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you again,
and hopefully, we'll chat on your show soon.
Yes.
And
I can't
hopefully we can get together. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right. You take care.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye-bye.